This is LT Melton with FetchYourNews.com, and we're here with the new Gilmer High School football coach, Zach Grage. Coach, the first question I want to ask is what attracted you to the Gilmer job, and how did you find out about it, and what made you want to coach at Gilmer?
To tell you the truth, I had no idea where Gilmer even was, never heard of it before in my life. I actually had one of my buddies I used to coach with call me and say, hey, have you heard about this job? It's open. It's a great place to raise your family. They play good ball. He sent me their wins over the past few years, the 7, 8, 9 wins, getting to the first, second round of the playoffs. It's some place that you want to be. For me right now, I'm 30 years old and sitting where I am with my family. I want my wife to be able to stay at home and not have to lock the doors. I want my boys to be able to go to school, and I know they're getting a good education and getting taken care of. I've got a 4-year-old, Noah. I've got Daniel will be 2 next month, and I've got a third on the way in August. We just found out he's another little boy, so I've got my little starting lineup.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's just, the coaching is definitely great. Being able to speak with some other guys who've been here. Coach Tank was a great asset for me, and nobody's had anything but great things to say about this place. And I just want to take them, to that next level. And I think the opportunities here through the administration, through the community, I've been nothing but impressed with all the support. So it's someplace I definitely see myself for a while, and someplace I think we can be very successful.
Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the community, and the previous coach, Coach Tank, was a homegrown product, had the most successful period in the school's history. You're following that guy who's kind of a hero. Even leaving, most people are just happy for him and not a lot of anger towards him. When you come into a situation like that, talk a little bit about that pressure, and how does it feel replacing a guy who the community has strong ties to and strong positive feelings for?
There's definitely pressure there, but it's a good pressure. I think that's where I'm going to thrive. I'm not going to be the guy that's just going to sit back and relax and just kind of, okay, we're going to do things the way that we've always done them, because there has been success. Now, in my opinion, that's not the success that I want. I don't want to be that first round guy, the second round guy. And my goal here with the community, I know that Tank was a great guy. I know he's done a great job, and he really turned this place around, which is kudos to him. And I'm looking forward to playing him in Ridgeland. But I look around this place, and I still think there's more that can be done. And after talking with Tank, he was always trying to get that extra stuff. But I think some of it comes down when you have a hometown guy that maybe he can just kind of do with what's here and do all that. Well, I'm not that guy, and I made it clear to everybody when I was in the interview that I'm going to be the guy that's going to, ask for the turf on the field, and ask for maybe the field has to be restructured, get a little more technology to really try and implement what I know to be successful coming from Colquitt County, things that Coach Probst taught me, that's all I know. And that's the way I want to operate. And I think so far, yes, there's pressure, but it's good. And I think that's, if you don't come to work every day trying to get better, and you don't come to work, trying to match and exceed that pressure, and really try and sell your kids and sell the community, hey, this was great, and I'm not ever going to take anything away from what you guys have done before. You've had success, but I think I can bring it to the next level. I think I can get, hey, okay, first round, great, but that's going to be something that is just normal. That is just game 11 and game 12. And again, that's what I learned down in Moultrie was you don't coach for the first round playoff game. You talk all the time about state champs, state champs, state champs, state champs. You talk about, and that's where we had the 6 years of 5 semifinals. We had the state championship run in 10, where we lost in the Dome, and then of course this past year we were able to finally break through and win the state title. But that's something that Coach preached all the time, and it's amazing how he just said get into the playoffs. This year he said we need to win the region championship so we have home games, and it's amazing how the kids react to that, and they really rise to the expectations that you set for them. So when I come in here and I say this is what we expect, fellas, that's why we're going to do things a certain way. You're gonna wear your clothes the right way. You're going to make sure that you're cleaned up after yourself. That we're going to be, doing the small things that it takes to make that big thing. Another thing I learned, in 13 we lost to Norcross, and then went on to win the state championship. We lost 14-9, and the reason we lost that game was our outside backer missed a tackle by an inch. And people can talk about the conditions and all kinds of things like that, but that's what happened. They threw a screen, he missed that tackle by 1 inch.
Right.
And that was the whole season. That was the difference between us and state championship. So it's all those small things that add up, and you always talk about, well, that doesn't matter. Yes, it does. So everything here is going to matter, and like I said, with the community support, I think it's just going to really help everything come to fruition.
Now, I'm glad that you mentioned the success you guys had at Colquitt. You coming off a state title. You were the running backs coach and the strength and conditioning coach. You guys, running backs, I believe, ran for about 195 yards a game, passed for around 200. Had a balanced offense, but about 400 yards a total offense. What are your plans for the offense here, and what are your plans for the defense as well?
Offensively, I think there's been some kind of stigma in the community that, when I talk about tempo and I talk about spread, that everybody thinks we're just going to throw it around a bunch, and that's not the case. The first group of players that I met when I came here was actually 7 offensive linemen. 2 of them are leaving, and then 5 of them that are coming back, and they are gorgeous, and to say the least. They could play for us right now in 6A ball in Moultrie. So I would be stupid to sit up here and say, I'm just going to throw the ball 100 times and tell them to pass set. No. Like you mentioned, we do have a very balanced offense coming from Moultrie, and I'm going to try and gear that same idea to where we're going to have the potential. One game we could throw it 40 times. The next game we might throw it 10 and run the ball. And with a guy sitting in the backfield like Russell Cochran, I've got Thaddeus Bowers sitting on the outside. That you really have a lot of weapons sitting here, and that's the other kind of detriment I think that people are talking about. Well, coach, we don't have anybody that runs a 4-3. We don't have the athletes that you played with down there. I understand that. That's great. But you just got to trust the system, and the system's going to take care of itself. And the good thing here is, yeah, you might not have that guys running the 4-3, but you're not playing guys that run 4-3s. You're still playing the same type of kids that you've got on your side, and you're just going to beat them with scheme and beat them with tempo and beat them with, just good, hard kids that work well together. Defensively, we're going to be as fundamentally sound as you can be. We're going to practice against this tempo every day. Our whole team program, it's not just an offensive thing. Our special teams, our defense, offense, anything in the locker room, meeting times, everything's going to be tempo. Everything's going to be energetic. It's the staff I'm going to have behind me. And they're going to be fundamentally sound when it comes to ball security. They're going to be fundamentally sound when it comes to tackling. You're going to have kids that play hard to the whistle all the time, up 50, down 50. It does not matter. We're going to have depth. We're going to have kids that might not have played before. That I'm real big on the 2 platoon type system where I want kids that play offense, I want kids that play defense. Now, when it comes time for it to happen, if it's 3rd and 1 on the 4-yard line to win a ball game, I might have my big offensive lineman playing that nose,
right?
So because he's good, or I might have Thaddeus Bowers playing corner because he's the best player on the field. So, there's a lot of moving parts to this thing, and then what I try and when I explain it to people, it's an organized chaos, and it's going to look like there's a bunch of things going on at all times, but really there's a purpose for each thing that we're doing.
Now, let me ask, is it a true spread, or are you guys going to be in the shotgun mostly? Is it going to be any under center? Is it going to be 2 backs? Is it going to be 1 back? Do you prefer an athletic quarterback? And obviously, you don't want to give away your whole game plan, but there are things that going into when it comes to that type no huddle tempo offense.
Right. The easiest answer to all those questions is yes. We're going to have the potential. Again, our offense is very basic. It's very simple. If you go back and watch any of the games that I was a part of in Moultrie, we're not running these crazy different schemes and putting a lot of things on our quarterback or running things where you're like, well, that's just kind of a flash in the pan type offense. In my 6 years, we ran the same base concepts over and over and over and just said stop them. And what helps us is, again, the speed and the tempo. You're snapping that ball every 14 seconds, and somebody's going to be tired, somebody's going to be misaligned. And our big thing is you don't call bad plays. You just call plays that might not work as well as others.
Right.
So that's where I've got to get to know the kids, and that's where I've got to get to know my personnel. If I've got 2 stud running backs, we're going to be in 2-back a lot. If I've got 2 tight ends that are big-time prospects, then we'll be in 2 tight ends. Right now I know that I have, like I said, a couple skill guys that can play really well. I'm looking for some others to step up that I've heard about. A great offensive line, and right now we've really got to get a quarterback to come along. So as far as an athletic quarterback, of course, you always want that kid that runs a 4.5 that can throw the ball 60 yards, but they don't come along very often.
Right.
So we're going to have to look at who we have to play the position, what they can do well, and that's kind of where else we hang our hat is, yes, we're going to do the work on opponents. Yes, we're going to know all their tendencies, but we're going to start the game plan every week with what do we do well? Let's make them stop us. What do we do very well? And then now let's put in a couple wrinkles for that week to where we say, okay, what's going to make them have a tough time defending us. Or as a defensive guy, I'm going to look at all the data and I'm going to stop their top 3, 5 plays, whatever we have time for that week. I'm going to stop their top stuff. Anything else, I'm going to make sure that I have checks for different formations. I have checks for different tendencies to where we're going to be in the right spot at the right time. And we're going to ask our kids to make a lot of plays, and we're going to build them up to be better than they think they are, or to be better than they actually can physically produce on the field. And that's your job as a coach. Make that kid play above his playing level. And that comes, again, in this atmosphere, through the locker room, through everything that we do. Hey, you're good. You're going to make those good players play great. The great players have to stay great. And then the key is the stragglers a little bit. Maybe those guys that might have played on the sideline before, or maybe held the water bottle, or just kind of watched the game, be happy to be part of the team. Those guys are going to be called on the play. Because like I said, depth is going to be a big issue. We're going to be running plays all the time. I want to have my guys fresh in the fourth quarter. And that's one thing that I bring from Moultrie is, we took pride in beating people in the second half. McEachern's a great example in our semifinal game. We're down 17-16 at halftime, and we end up beating them, like 51-20. So coming out at halftime knowing, hey, I'm fresh, I'm good, and not burning the candle in the first half, to where you have to call on those kids that might not be as good, but they can get the job done to allow this kid to rest. And that's where I really think the program starts taking care of itself.
I do want to mention that as a Marietta High graduate, I was really glad that y'all beat McEachern like that. I still hate that school. I just wanted to throw that out there. I actually watched that game on it was a GS TV or whatever, and I was very gleefully rooting for you guys.
We were too.
Clearly. I do want to ask though, you mentioned the tempo, you mentioned the conditioning. You come from a strength and conditioning background. What are some of the things that you're going to do to get these guys conditioned to run that no huddle attack when they clearly haven't done that really in the past?
A lot of guys think, and I guess the old school, new school stuff, and again, being 30 years old, I had the potential, or I had the opportunity when I was down there to make a lot of trips. I went to the Auburns, I went to the Alabamas, Georgias. We took trips to Baylor and Cal and Oregon, and just being able to look at the cutting edge stuff and some of the things that are different. So the days of like the 110s and just blowing the whistle and making kids run the whole field, those are gone. So if a kid's looking out here to do that type of stuff, he's in the wrong place. But that's also what's kind of enticing about this program is we do conditioning, and we do over the summer. Absolutely, there's no doubt. But we do it in more of a game-type atmosphere, to where the kids are going to be asked to burst at the best of their ability for 4 to 6 seconds.
Right. And
then have a 20 to 30-second break, just like a game. And we're just going to preach that. Now, is there time for the long-distance runs? No doubt. Okay, you want to call it mental toughness, you can call it whatever you want. But that is going to still be in the program to try and instill that toughness factor. The conditioning is going to be taken care of a lot in practice. If you come out and watch our practice, which I invite everybody to do, we are not going to ask the kids to run a lot after practice. I'm not a guy that's going to say, okay, that's the last whistle, and let's get on the line. I think it really brings kind of the whole practice down. Everybody's, oh man, we got to do it. No, if we practice like we're supposed to, then the conditioning takes care of itself.
Right.
Because again, everything is a game situation. I'm actually going to have a young man that is probably the key to our program is the ball spotter, and as funny as it may sound, or whatever, he's the guy that's got to make this thing go. That he's got to get that ball down as fast as I possibly can so I can snap it again. So when he gets that ball, then now these guys are having to run plays. We're not going to coach a lot on the field.
Right.
We still will talk, and we'll still, we're not just going to let a guy miss a block and say, okay, don't worry about it. But a lot of our coaching is going to take place in this room, where we're going to have our kids sit down and say, okay, look at last night's practice. It also helps me as conditioning. I can tell, we always say, hey, the eye in the sky don't lie. I can tell, look, Cochran, you took the day off. That's not good. I'm going to watch it every single day. You're going to watch it every single day, to where, you're in front of your buddies, and that's usually one of the biggest motivators. You don't want to let your brothers down. You don't want to let your family down. So if they're out here watching, and you're going to be watching on tape the next day, you're going to go as hard as you can, every single rep. And then, again, that's going to progress into the game. I think weight room wise, I always tell people, you can lift weights. Everybody lifts weights. To me, it's how you do it. So we're still going to do the big three with bench, squat, and power clean. We're still going to do auxiliary lifts. We're still going to do abs. We're still going to do just the same as everybody's doing in the country. But we're going to go about it a little different way. And I think that's what sets us apart or set us apart in Moultrie was just that's the way we did it. The kids attacked the weight room, which I've seen already the kids do here, and they're eager and they're willing to work. And again, it's all about the tempo. So we have, a 16 exercise normal day as far as the weight room goes, but we knock it out in 40 minutes, 37 to 40 minutes. So there's no downtime. If you're benching, you got a spotter, but once you get off that bench, there's no standing around. You've got something else to be doing. You got
so it's more circuit training?
A lot of circuit training, but there's no sitting whatsoever. I mean, it's just, and it's fun, and I've got a film of it, and I'm going to kind of show the kids what's going on, and see if they match up to our energy and tempo.
Now, let me ask about your staff. Have you already put it together? I assume there's a mix of some guys you bringing in as opposed to guys you're keeping. Who's going to be the defensive coordinator? I'm sure you know that Coach Pettit, longtime defensive coordinator, just retired. Another guy that was really beloved in the community. What are some of the staff adjustments that you'll be making this year?
First off, I've heard nothing but great things about Coach Pettit and his brother. I actually just got done speaking with him. Phenomenal man, and to have a field named after you in your hometown is amazing. And still being alive and having that happen is even more amazing. But as far as staff goes right now, excuse me, we're in no way, shape, or form set. And that's the process over the next couple of weeks. I hope to have everybody set by spring break, because that's when we'll start really getting into the program as far as the install and some conditioning goes. But, I'm not looking for a molded type guy. I want somebody, or a certain age, I want somebody that's good with football knowledge. My main key is going to be a family-oriented guy that can motivate kids. And if you can get somebody to play for you, sometimes the X's and O's don't matter. But if you can get that kid to run through that brick wall, then you're going to win ball games. You're going to be successful. And you got to know that they care about you, whether they need a ride, whether they need, whatever it is.
Right.
A meal here is something there, just a little pat on the butt that says, hey, let's go. Not just on the field, but off the field, taking care of their classroom work, taking care of anything else, being outside. Maybe it's not when somebody walks in the door, it's not all football all the time. Hey, how's your mom? How's your dad? How's your sister? Whatever. So let them know that you care. And again, I hope to have that in. Defensive coordinator-wise, I've had a lot of interest. Actually sitting in the process right now of getting some guys here and talking to them and seeing how they fit in our program. And then as far as guys that are here already, I think there's a lot to be said for guys. I know no one. I know nothing about the area.
Right.
I know, from what I know about the opponents is what I've seen off tape so far, just sitting there and watching film. So there's a lot to be said when you have guys with connections that can maybe get you that extra film, or they can call that guy for you to get some information, or just say, hey, that's so-and-so in the community. Maybe that's the mayor, or that's whoever.
Right.
And there's a lot to be said for that. So the days of people coming in and cleaning house and doing all that, those are gone. Plus, you also have the fact that LJ is such a great place to live. Nobody wants to leave.
Right.
So me, even if I, choose to get rid of a guy, he's probably not going to leave his teaching slot. So
you got to see him every day.
As far as I go, yeah, you see him every day. And then two, that's a slot that I can't hire somebody else in.
Right.
So then you start looking quality and quantity, and that's things that are part of the job. But I don't think there's a mold that I want 2 guys from LJ and I want 8 guys from outside. I think it's just going to be who's going to be able to fit in and do what's asked of them and do it to the best of their ability.
Now, I'm going to piggyback on that, but I want to ask, when it comes to defensive coordinator, do you have a preference for scheme? Do you prefer the 3-4, 4-3, maybe even 4-2-5, or is it just the overall fit?
I want someone that's going to preach the fundamentals over and over and over and over to the point that they're blue in the face. And I want the guys that can, again, motivate their kids. Now, I know what gives us trouble on offense. And some years, I know we played Stevenson in 2010, and they ran a 4-3, cover 2, and they ran it over. Kind of like the Seahawks. Hey, we're going to play this defense, and you can't beat us.
Right.
Well, they were about right. I mean, you couldn't move the ball on them just because they had freaks all over the field. Now, just coming again, using my background the past 2 years. 2 years ago in Moultrie, we had 2 300-pounders sitting inside. So we ran an even front.
Right.
Okay, 2 big stalwarts in the middle, let our linebacker go make plays. This year, we came out and we didn't have those big guys. We had a bunch of fast guys on the defensive line that we could rotate, but we had a really, really good set of linebackers. and Coach Probst's gone on record many times saying it's probably the best he's ever coached in his career. It's just, I want somebody that's well versed to be able to, at the drop of a hat, hey, that's not working, let's try something else. You know, still have a base defense just like we have a base offense.
Right.
Have a base defense to hang your hat on, but be able to adjust not only throughout the week, but also in-game adjustments is going to be huge. So, you know, I want to know if guys are using technology. I want to know how they handle their halftime adjustments. I want to know how they get along with their coaches. You know, can they coach their coaches to get the coaches to do what the players want? You know, sometimes you just kind of have this figurehead and their coach doesn't know what to do. They're getting told two different things. I don't want that. I want that family type atmosphere. I want, you know, and again, it's not a mold, but, you know, I'd like guys that are family guys. I'd like guys that have kids. My kids are going to be running up here probably breaking stuff left and right. So my wife's going to be up here. You know, I want people around and I want everybody, you know, in for that same goal.
Now, to come back to your coaching staff that's here, have you already started leaning on those guys to ask around the region? Like you mentioned, you've seen tape, you've seen film, but obviously you're not familiar with the area, with the teams that you play as much. Have you already started gathering information from them that you don't see on film about the region opponents?
Absolutely. You know, the first thing you always ask is who's your biggest rival, and I ask the kids.
I was coming back. I was coming to that.
Awesome. You know, and they talk about Pickens, they talk about Fannin, and of course Ridgeland now with Coach Tank being over there. You know, I want Cartersville to be in that same thing because they've kind of been the high horse for the past couple of years. And I've played them before in some 7-on-7 tournaments, and we can hang. Trust me, we can hang. But yes, absolutely. And Coach Thurman's been a great asset for me. You know, running the interim while the head coaching process, the interview process was still going on. He was able to he's done a great job of staying organized and keeping everything for me. And again, Coach Tank has been a great asset for me to be able to, you know, just ask him any off-the-wall question, or it might be a specific, you know, football type question. How do I do this? The biggest thing for me is a lot of times, you know, at school, you know, how do you sign into certain things? How do you know, where's the mailroom?
Right.
You know, all that type of stuff that I guess people take for granted. You know, again, I'm that new guy and I start tomorrow morning and then
right.
I'm still trying to figure out which room I go to in the morning. So but again, that's stuff that makes it exciting. But yes, we've definitely started reaching out. I do have a couple connections up here, a couple at Dalton, Sonoraville, that where, you know, you start asking those guys, hey, tell me about this team. Tell me about this team. I've gotten the phone numbers of the region head coaches and I'm in the process of calling them or talk to a few. So, and they're not going to give you everything, just like I'm not going to give them everything. But right. They've been very welcoming, and you know, congratulations on the job, and you know, we hope you can win 9 games and lose this one. You know,
right,
kind of
right.
The standard coaching deal.
Right. Now, speaking of those rivals, you got Fannin as the first game, obviously, and then the big one, Pickens. Mm-hmm. Those are the two big rivalries. Like you said, Cartersville's in there. You have, like you said, Coach Tanka and Ridgeland. That'll probably be a bigger rivalry. But those are the two big ones. What have you done so far with the kids and the team as it comes to focusing every game like those games?
So far, my total contact with the team has been, you know, we had a little team meeting Friday before they went home.
Right. And
then I kind of catch kids here and there because I just got back in town today. I was trying to help my wife get some stuff ready to get packed up so she can get up here with the boys.
Right.
So as far as that goes, you know, focusing on Pickens or beat, you know, I'm not that guy that's going to have a big sign in the weight room that says beat Pickens.
Right.
You know, to me, Pickens is, if you beat them, you're 1-0. If you beat Heritage Catoosa, you're 1-0. You know, so all of them are the same as far as that goes. Now, all that being said, in the community-wise, you know, you might have some people that tell me you can go 1-9 as long as you beat Pickens.
And you will have people tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already been told that a couple times.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure you heard that already.
They've said 2-8 because we got to beat Ridgeland now too.
Right.
You know, all in good fun. But, you know, coming again from Ultra, we had everybody talks about Valdosta and everybody talks about Lowndes. And of course, you got to get up for those games. Okay, there's no doubt. But those are the games where if your kids can't get up for those games, they should be playing. I mean, it's just kind of ingrained. So again, as a staff, like you were talking about, LT, is that you've got to sit there and say, okay, look, you know, this non-region game to open up the season against Murphy in North Carolina is just as important as Pickens, or just as important as Ridgeland. And again, that's our job. Is it's a week-to-week deal here. Okay, we're going to talk once we get to the playoffs. Again, you're in a week-to-week dress rehearsal. If you lose, you're gone. Okay, you're going home. So we've got to treat the region and non-region all that same way to prepare for what's coming here. And I think that's what, not maybe what have been missing, but where the kids might not expect. You know, we play 10 to 11 games. No, we play, I want to do 15. One of the first things I try to get done when I came here is, you know, we're getting rid of the 2 scrimmages and going back to spring football.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask, because I know that they're in the contract for this year. But what was your preference on that?
Right. My preference, and again, it's just from what I know, is I want spring football. I want 1 scrimmage. And here's, looking at it from the season standpoint, I'm used to playing 15 to 16 games, counting that scrimmage.
Right.
So it's a long season, you know, based over 19 weeks.
Right.
Open weeks and things like that involved. So that extra scrimmage, the extra week of wear and tear, to me is not beneficial to our success. You know, I get that done in practice. We will scrimmage a lot in practice. We'll have, you know, not only one of the big, you know, purple and white game or whatever it is, that we're going to have, you know, multiple scrimmages to where we can go ahead and get those situations out there but be ones-on-ones. Also, as a new guy coming in, the last thing you want to do is try and chase kids out in the summer. You know, what I feel like I'm going to do is come in the spring, go ahead and get the program rolling, get the kids the expectations, give them a week or 2 off right there at the end of school. You know, focus on finals and then have that first week of the summer off to go do what they need to do, and then come back hitting it pretty hard in June. And our June schedule, you know, will be, you know, the weights, the conditioning, and then we also will have a small practice every single day. And again, to me, that's important as a new guy. I've got to install going from a wing tee to a spread. You know, some guys here that may not have caught a ball, you know, their whole entire life.
Right.
To where we need to get that rolling immediately. The 7-on-7s, the OTAs against other teams, where you have, you know, the full practices basically against other teams, being able to compete against someone else. And that's what we need to get rolling here right now. So that's why I have the spring, to make it an easier transition on us getting into the summer, to know this is what I expect. And in June, it's a little tough because you have kids that are involved in multiple sports.
I was going to ask you about that, because in this, especially in the smaller communities, you have guys that are, like you said, in baseball, basketball, wrestling, especially up here, wrestling.
Absolutely.
When you trying to put in a new system, how will you manage those guys that are you know, probably are into 3 sports? Sometimes
you got to deal with it, and that's just what it is. And like I told a kid today that you will never ever miss a practice that's in season, or you'll never ever miss say for instance, Coach Snyder's holding wrestling practice in June at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm holding mine at 10:30. Okay, give him his due time. That's great. I've got a kid. Maybe a kid shows up for mine but missed his. The first thing, hey, why aren't you here? You know, and we're going to ask. June is a tough month.
Right.
For coaches, for players, it's tough. That's where everybody's going to hold their summer practices. And in my opinion, if you have a 4-sport athlete and he has to practice 4 times in one day, then he practices 4 times in one day. Now you got to be smart with that. You know, I'm not going to go out and kill a kid in conditioning so he goes to basketball practice and is dead.
Right.
I've got to understand and trust the other coaches that they're going to get his conditioning done here. But as far as the football mind goes, you know, that's where I really need to gain an edge in that month of June. And I grew up in a small school. I graduated with 70 kids at Cascade High School in Clayton, Indiana. So we were a 1A program. My last 2 years we moved up to 2A, so we were moving up in the world. But there was a core group of 5 to 7 of us that played football, basketball, and baseball. Right. And it is what it is. And you'd go, you know, we did our workouts in the evenings because we worked most of the day, but you'd go to football weights from 5 to 6:30, and then basketball open gym started at 7. And that's what it was. And if I went to basketball open gym and I skipped weights, then my football coach walked across the street and he's like, hey, Zach, what are you doing? Right. So again, it's that accountability, and it's getting the same page with the coaches, and you know, which I'm hoping to have an opportunity to do tomorrow, to where we all sit down and say, look, this is what it's going to be. I'm totally on board. And you know, you want to change things and you want to get your stamp on the program, but you don't want to screw up what's already here. Right. So that's the thing about, you know, ruffling feathers as a new guy and a guy with no community ties, that I'm not scared to do that if it's best for the kids. But you know, you also got to say, you know, like Coach Snyder, he's been uberly successful. I mean, it's amazing what he's
15
done.
state titles.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean, that is, in any sport, any country. Yeah, that's impressive. That's amazing. If I can get that, then, you know, I've done something. So, you know, being able to work with him, that's a privilege for me. being able to come and pick a guy's brain that's been here for a long time, has community ties, has kids that are extremely successful year in and year out. He's got a program. That's what we want. Right now, I don't want a team. I want a program.
Now, and I guess the last question really is, what are your expectations? Obviously, you expect to be playing 15 games a year eventually, but in that first season, it's always an adjustment, especially when you're changing basically the whole offense pretty much to that no huddle attack. What are your expectations for that first year as the kids adjust to what you're doing?
There's a couple different words in there that I don't like. I don't like eventually. I don't like adjustment time. I don't like, well, it's just the first year. I don't want to hear that stuff. You know, hold me, and everybody can hold me to that, but I don't want to have to go to a booster club meeting the week after a game where we might not have played great and say, well, we're still learning. And that's, again, that's my focus to where that's why June is so important. That's why July is so important. That's why, to me, the spring is so important. Yes, it's new, and I knew that coming in, and that's one of the reasons I took this job. But that's the excitement that's part of it, is can I take what I've learned here and come in and change almost 180 degrees from what, I mean, this is about as opposite of the wing tee as you can be. Now, there's still a lot of wing tee concepts based in there, but that's for another day. I'm not a big fan of the eventual. I want results now, and that's what the kids are going to be told all the time. I don't want to, I don't want to hear that. I don't want a kid to use that as an excuse. Coach, I've never ran this route. Well, learn. And I think we've got the kids here that'll do that they're not going to buck the system. Coach, I've always been taught how to down block. I don't know how to pass set. Well, you're going to have a coach that's going to teach you how to do that. That's okay. Just work as hard as you can. And again, you might take a couple steps backward before you go forward, but that's why I want June. That's why I want July. I don't want to take game 3 and say, well, we just took a big step backward. Now we better.
Right.
I heard somebody talk this weekend that, after every loss or after every game that you play poorly, what's the coach say on Monday? He's going to say the same stuff. Well, we're going to get back to the fundamentals. We're going to get back to the basics. Well, those are going to be stalwarts in our program. We're going to do fundamentals and basics every single day. And, so that's not going to be an excuse. We're going to catch balls every day. We're going to snap the football every day. It pains me when I see that shotgun exchange to where the center snaps it over his head. There should be no excuse for that. It's
right.
Every time. You practice that. And you asked before, I didn't hit on it, but like under center. We have to practice those snaps. There's going to be packages where we are under center, whether it's short yardage, goal line, or maybe it's just something we want to do. That, we make a call, we go under center, but it's not something that you can just pick up on the sideline and hope they learn it in rec league. I mean, you've got to practice it every day, but also keep your practices. Our practices are a lot different here to where they're short. We're only on the field for maybe 2 hours on a given day, but it's very efficient. And it's things where you're not working on things just doing a drill to do a drill.
Right.
You're doing a drill because that's what that team does that week and you need to defend it. Or you're working a certain kind of block because that's how they line up on defense. We're not just working, we're not just catching a ball on air just because.
Right.
We're always working towards a goal, towards some kind of progression.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time and good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.